raced for the door, their weapons blazing. As they cut a path through the advancing KCK organs, they burst out of the stronghold and into the asteroid field. Beyond, the Shadow Hawk waiting for them. Like a beacon of hope, they leaped aboard. The hatch slamming shut behind them as Reich gunned the engines and sent the ship rocketing into the void. As the stronghold receded behind them, Kara felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her, the adrenaline of battle fading away. She slumped into the co-pilot's seat, her eyes drifting shut, but even as she slipped into unconsciousness, she felt a warm hand on her shoulder, a gentle touch that spoke of comfort and care. Rest now, Reich said, his voice soft. You've earned it. And so, with the stars streaking by outside the viewport and the man she had come to trust by her side, Kara let herself drift off into a dreamless sleep, secure in the knowledge that for now at least they were safe. But even as she slept, she knew that their journey was far from over. The Kex organs would not take this defeat lightly, and there were still battles to be fought, still dangers to be faced. And then there was the matter of her own fate, the ticking clock that hung over her head like a sword of Damocles. She had come to Rick for help, for a chance to save her own life, but now, as she lay there in the quiet of the Shadow Hawk cockpit, Kara realized that her feelings for the mercenary had grown into something more, something deeper and more profound than mere gratitude or friendship. She had come to care for him, to trust him with her life and her heart. And as the stars streak by outside the viewport, Kara knew that whatever this future held, she would face it by Rick's side, united in their quest for survival and for something more precious than either of them had ever known. Kira awoke to the gentle hum of the Shadow Hawk's engines, the soft vibration of the ship lulling her back to wakefulness. She blinked her eyes, adjusting to the dim light of the cockpit, and saw Reich sitting beside her, his gaze fixed on the stars outside the viewport. How long was I out? She asked, her voice rough with sleep. Reich glanced over at her, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. A few hours. You needed the rest. Kara nodded, stretching her arms above her head. She felt better, the exhaustion of the mission fading away as she moved. Where are we headed? She asked, leaning forward to study the nav computer. A little place I know, Reich said, his voice cryptic. Somewhere we can lay low for a while, regroup, and plan ours next move. Kara raised an eyebrow, curious. And where might that be? Reich grinned, a flash of white teeth in the darkness. You'll see. Hours later, the Shadow Hawk dropped out of hyperspace, the stars resolving into pinpricks of light against the inky black of space. Before them, a small, unassuming planet hung, the void, its surface a mottled mix of green and blue. Welcome to men here, Reich said, guiding the ship into the planet's atmosphere. My home away from home. As they descended, Kara saw a vast expanse of rolling hills and verdant forests, the landscape dotted with small, picturesque villages. It was a far cry from the neonlit streets of Fifua Prime or the cold, sterile corridors of the galactic patrol starships. Reich set the Shadow Hawk down on a small, secluded landing pad, the ship settling onto its landing gear. With a gentle thump, he powered down the engines and turned to Kara, his expression serious. Before we go any further, he said, his voice low, there's something I need to tell you. Kara felt a flicker of apprehension, but she nodded, waiting for him to continue. I've been thinking about your situation, Reich said, his gaze intense. About what you asked me to do. Kara's heart skipped a beat, her mouth suddenly dry, and Reich took a deep breath, his eyes never leaving hers. I'll do it. I'll help you conceive a child. Kara felt a rush of emotion, a mix of relief and gratitude, and something deeper, something she couldn't quite name. She opened her mouth to speak, but Reich held up a hand, stopping her. But I have a condition, he said, his voice firm. I want to be a part of the child's life. I want to be there for you, for both of you. Kara's eyes widened, her heart pounding. In her chest, she had never expected this. Never dared to hope for something so. Precious Reich, she said, her voice. Trembling, I don't know what to say, he smiled a soft, gentle smile that made her heartache say yes, and so with tears in her eyes and a heart full of hope, Carrera nodded, her voice barely a whisper, yes. They disembarked from the Shadow Hawk, hand in hand, and made their way to a small cozy cottage nestled among the trees. Inside, a fire crackled in the hearth, casting a warm golden glow over the room. Reich led Kara to the bedroom, his touch gentle and reverent, and there, in the soft light of the fire, they came together, their bodies moving in perfect SNC, their hearts beating as one. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated bliss, a moment of connection and intimacy that Kara had never known before. And as she lay there in Reich's arms, her body saddened and her heart full, she knew that she had found something precious, something worth fighting for. The days passed in a blur of happiness and contentment as Kara and Reich explored the beauty of men herein. Each other they hiked through the forest, swam in the crystal clear lakes, and made love under the stars, their passion and affection growing with each passing moment. But even as they reveled in their newfound love, Kara knew that their time together was finite. Her birthday was fast approaching, and with it the deadline that hung over her head like a verdict. She tried not to think about it, tried to lose herself in the joy of the present moment. But as the days ticked by, the fear and uncertainty began to creep back in a cold, insidious whisper in the back of her mind. And then on the mornings of her 30th birthday, Kara woke to a strange, unfamiliar sensation in her belly. She sat up, her hand pressed to her stomach, and felt a flicker of movement, a tiny precious spark of life. Reich, she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. I think it worked. I think I'm pregnant. Rick's eyes widened, his face splitting into a grin of pure, unadulterated joy. He gathered her into his arms, holding her close, his laughter mingling with her tears of relief. We did it, he said, his voice rough with emotion. We're going to be parents. And in that moment, as the sun rose over the hills of men here and the future stretched out before them like a shining path, Carrara knew that she had found something worth living for, something worth fighting for. She had found love, and with it the strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead. And as she lay there in Ray's arms, their child growing inside her, Kara knew that she was ready for whatever the universe had in store, for she was a warrior, a fighter to the core, and with Reich by her side and their child in her belly, she knew that she could face anything, overcome anything. And so, with hearts full of love and eyes bright with hope, Carrara and Reich set out to face the future together, ready to take on the galaxy and all its wonders, one day at a time. 1 year later, the soft cries of their infant son stirred Kara from her slumber. She rolled over, her hand reaching instinctively for Reich, only to find his side of the bed empty. She sat up, a smile tugging at her lips as she heard his deep, soothing voice coming from the nursery. Kara padded softly into the room, leaning against the door frame as she watched Reich cradling their son, men here named after the planet where they had found solace and love. The sight of her husband, bare-chested and sleep-told, never failed to send a thrill through her bodies. Hey there, little man, Reich murmured, his finger caught in men's. Here's tiny grip, you're up early trying to catch the sunrise like your old man. Kara chuckled softly, drawing Rex's attention. His eyes met hers, a playful glint dancing in their depths. Well, look who's finally awake, he teased, his voice low and seductive. I thought I might have to send a search party. Kara sauntered over to him, her hips swaying with each step. You know I need my beauty sleep, she purred, running a hand along his muscular arm, especially after the news we got last night. Rick's grin widened, his free hand snaking around her waist and pulling her close. The K's organs scattered to the winds, he murmured, lips brushing against her ear. Defeat By the combined forces of the Galactic Patrol and the Resistance, it's like a weight has been lifted, Kara hummed in. Agreement, her fingers tracing the heart. Planes of his chest, it's a new beginning. She whispered, her eyes locking with his. For the galaxy and for us. Reich's hands slid lower, his touch igniting a fire in her veins. Speaking of new beginnings, he said, his voice a low, suggestive rumble. What do you say we give men here a little brother or sister to play with? Kara's eyes widened, a surprised laugh escaping her lips. Reich, she exclaimed, swatting his chest playfully. Men here is barely 3 months old. Ray grinned, unrepentant. What can I say, he quipped, his eyes dancing with mischief. I'm a man of action, and right now I'm thinking we should take advantage of this rare moment of peace and quiet. He punctuated his words with a meaningful glance towards their bed, his intentions clear. Kara felt a rush of heat, her body responding to his suggestion with a throb of desire. You're insatiable, she murmured, her lips curving into a coy smile. But I suppose we should strike while the iron is hot. Reich's grin turned wolfish, his hands sliding down to cup her rear. Oh, I'll show you hot, he growled, his voice a promise of pleasure to come. Kara laughed low and throaty as Reich set men here gently back in his crib. He turned to her, his eyes smoldering with desire, and swept her into his arms, carrying her back to their bed. As they tumbled onto the sheets, their bodies intertwined, Carrie marveled at the twists and turns of fate that had brought them to this moment. She had once faced the prospect of death, of a life unlived and a future unrealized, but now, with Wright by her side and their son sleeping peacefully in the next room, Kara knew that she had everything she had ever wanted: a family, a love that burned brighter than the stars, and a future full of endless possibilities. And as Rick's lips claimed hers, his hands igniting fires on her skin, Kara surrendered to the passion and the promise of their love, ready to face whatever the future held together.